and still at the core of the programs, even at an early age. I'm usually invited to go into regular schools and colleges, not even universities, but go to colleges in order to inspire, not only women in technology, but also young professionals. So, because we need that.
Welcome to KBcast, the podcast for security executives, interviewing people from around the globe on how organizations can operate smarter and stay safer. Here's Carissa Breen.
Ramses, welcome to the show. I really appreciate it. I know that it is nice and sunny where you are in the world, which is in Spain. So I'm really keen because you have such a great energy, and it's definitely going to brighten up my day today, or my night, because it is obviously cold and dark and drizzly in Sydney. So really keen to have your energy on the show today. And I know that we are going to be speaking about artificial intelligence and machine learning. So before we dive into the specifics of that, we always like to start off our podcast with talking about you and your journey. So can you please talk to our listeners about where you sort of started and what are you sort of doing now?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's truly a pleasure to be with you today. And thanks for having me, and thanks for asking me about the journey, because that's exactly how I see it. I started my early career in sales, selling technology. Although my background and my studies are on economics and law, I have been always keen on technology, and then I started as a sales professional, right? But with a degree in economics and law, I felt that there was something in my, let's say, universe of knowledge that I didn't have, which is the understanding of why this sort of technology, why networks, why security, why the need of auditing and assurance. And then I started a journey, as you were saying, with certifications. I went to ISACA and I get my certified in the governance of the enterprise IT certification and the certified information security manager. Then I also got some certifications from Stanford University on project management. And then I also decided to go for a Six Sigma black belt. In a nutshell, I wanted to have different angles and dimensions and perspectives if I was going to deliver value and good service. So starting on let's say business first. So starting on my degrees and studies on economics, and through the use of technology, serving people and businesses into that. Then I went into different technology companies, CA Technologies, and then Dell Software, the software part of the Texan company, American company of hardware. I was in the software arena. And then, of course, cybersecurity and protection and defense has always been, at the core of my DNA, on protection, defense, safeguarding what matters most. And then, of course, my time with Symantec. And right now, my time as International Chief Technology Officer of CyberRes, a micro-focus line of business. I couldn't be happier. It's certainly a moment in my life. Let me finish by saying that today I'm representing ISACA. I've been in international vice president at the board of directors of ISACA. And again, that combination of certification, knowledge, the theory and frameworks and best practices coming from those certifications that I just mentioned, combined with real world experience, I think that mix make me the professional that I am today. So and again, it's a pleasure to talk about the journey and hopefully inspire other people into finding their path and their inner core, what they feel about if it's technology or cloud technology or machine learning that we will talk today, even quantum computing. Who knows? I have some session, and I was touring the world before the pandemic with my quantum computing session. So I think that it's good to craft your career and follow the passion that drives you.
Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that, because it's interesting, because you've definitely had quite the career in terms of starting in sales, and then you went to CA, and then you've sort of been at Symantec. So you've definitely seen that shift of how technology has changed, how people have adopted to it. And so what I'm really keen to sort of explore today is I've had a few other guests on the podcast talking specifically around artificial intelligence. But one of the areas I'd like to focus with you here today is because we're sort of seeing this shift and this change the way we operate in society, but also the way in which certain jobs are performed and some of which will become obsolete, right? So talk me through like some of the landscape at the moment. Like, what are you seeing when it comes to this stuff? And I ask this because people sort of think we're going to get to this stage where no one has a job and then, robots just walk around and own the world. And I mean, I see it differently, but I'm really keen to hear your thoughts because there's this fallacy not only in the industry, but I think more so speaking outside of that we want to sort of demystify and debunk that that's not really the reality of things.
Oh, well, your question is very pointed on what I called this is not just an era of changes, but the change of an era, the change of an epoch. We society at large, we need to understand, we need to embrace change. Actually, as I was hearing your question, I mean, you mentioned change 1 or 2 times within the question, which is fantastic because I like to talk about the 3 V's of change. Let me explain. The velocity, the variety, and the volume of change. What the change that we are seeing, not just because of the pandemic, which of course accelerates all that, but the change that we are seeing is unprecedented. I mean, the volume of change on different, technologies and a scenario, even the threat landscape is changing very rapidly. But the velocity of change, I mean, the agility that is required for businesses and governments of the world and different organizations, right? So velocity, variety, how many flavors of the same things we have, how many versions of the same applications are we storing? How many different sets of data we have to deal with. So again, velocity, variety, and the volume of change. So your question drives me into talking about the 4th V, not just the 3 V's I have just mentioned, velocity, variety, and volume, but the 4th V. The 4th V of change is the value of embracing change. And certainly machine learning and artificial intelligence, to my eyes, in my opinion, as an observer of this industry and different industries, I see that they're here to help. I mean, we shouldn't be afraid of that. Of course, there's an ethical approach and an ethical limit to how we use these technologies, how we collect information, correlate information, analyze information. Yes to all of that, right? But I see it more of an opportunity. I understand that, let's say, with the rise, not the rise of the machines, but the rise of chatbots, okay? So chatbots, those little applications that certainly guide you into a sales process, that can be a fantastic first level for a triage of an incident, let's say cybersecurity or even healthcare, So the rise of chatbots, people might think or may think that, we don't need humans anymore. I see it quite the other way. I see it as an opportunity of having the right people for the right tasks at the right time. Meaning, I mean, if it's healthcare or if it's, a cyber analyst, get people to serve humans, as a second level, with an expertise. Once the algorithms have tracked the problem, have correlated the problem, have filtered or guessed, with different guessing patterns of behavior, detecting anomalies, guessing what's right or what's wrong, of course, depending on historical data. So I think that machine learning, which by the way, it's a subset of artificial intelligence. So machine learning is one of the subsets of AI. We call it AI. We, the world, we call it AI because, we like the name and we like the acronym AI. Great. But in reality, what we mean is machine learning. And one of the 4 types of machine learning, there are 4 types: supervised, unsupervised, reinforcement learning, and deep learning. Let me repeat, supervised, unsupervised, reinforcement learning, and deep learning. Well, the second one, which is unsupervised machine learning, is the one that is being used most in cybersecurity, for threat hunting, for guessing the next move of attackers and offenders and cyber criminals alike. So unsupervised machine learning, I love it because it learns by observation rather than by example. You don't need to train the algorithm. The algorithm, let me put it between inverted commas, so quote unquote, it trains itself by observing what's happening in a certain environment. When you apply that into, again, healthcare, when you apply that into cybersecurity, which is my line of work, when you apply that into auditing, well, some auditor that she or he might be listening now say, well, that my job is about to be gone. No, not really. Part of the mundane or the normal tasks of an auditor or even a lawyer, they might be gone. But then you have the opportunity of enhancing and amplifying the experience of what the algorithm provides us as first level or triage or something. So I understand your question, and I apologize for a long answer, but I understand people, and I respect it when they think, we're doomed, the jobs are going to be gone. I think, well, we call it, actually, we at ISACA, we at CyberRes, a micro-focus line of business, we call it the jobs of the future. But jobs of the future of right now, the future of now. We like to think about, 3 years ago or 5 years ago, we were not talking about being a cloud architect or being a data scientist, or a threat hunter. And suddenly these jobs exist, and they exist for a reason, because technology and machine learning or AI, artificial intelligence, they can help us on those fields and perspectives. So I think that's important, not to lose sight of collaborating with machine learning rather than fighting or having a bad day with AI or machine learning. Back to you. Thank you.
No, I really appreciate people going on tangents, because I think it really does express your thoughts and your thinking just organically, and it's sort of just evolving from there. So no, I really appreciate people going on rants. But one of the things that I think that I'm hearing that you're saying, like collaborating with machine learning, totally agree. But for those who perhaps are still afraid, where do you think that sort of comes from? Like, why do you think that they are afraid? Is it because that they don't have enough perspective? Like you said, data scientists, all that wasn't around. That's a new thing. But now it seems obvious because they can see that data scientists are a thing. Is it because that we haven't quite traversed into this new way of operating yet, so it's hard to see the tangible jobs that are associated with I guess this new working environment?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the question again, because I think that the lack of understanding, let me summarize it in this sort of overarching quote now. It is because of the lack of understanding. It is because, with all due respect, we are humans, and then we have a tendency to fight, everything that is new, and to think, that again we're doomed or the machines are gonna take over. I have also to admit that movies or science fiction or Hollywood, if you want to call it like that, is not helping. When you think about iRobot with Will Smith or the Terminator, that everybody, there are like 6 movies of the Terminator. They don't help because it looks like we have to fight, machines. While, of course, I'm a technologist and I have been in the industry for plus 25 years. And again, I have in one of my sessions, I have one visual, which is, a hand of a robot, and the hand of a human, shaking hands, not fighting, not doing arm wrestling. They are collaborating. So to your question, I think that is the lack of understanding, the lack, I would say, even the lack of communication, actually enhancing business processes and procedures. And there are standards, or frameworks. I told you about, I am a Six Sigma Black Belt. I have from ISACA, I have the COBIT 2019, but COVID-19 certification. I'm an ITIL certified professional, meaning those frameworks, they work as supply chains, meaning they have an input of information, you do something, some sort of transformation with the information, and then suddenly it becomes an output for another process, like in a factory, like in industrial processing. So in those processes, if you can enhance or amplify the capability of that specific process, input output, with an algorithm, if you can do it faster, or you can do it deeper, or you can do it wider, why not? I mean, the problem is, and again I say with massive respect, is the lack of understanding. And this is why we need young professionals, and we need very talented CIOs and CISOs and chief technology officers and chief transformation managers to embrace that change that I was mentioning some minutes ago, the velocity, variety, and volume of change, and then the value of bringing technology into the charter, into the workflow and the diagram and the processes, right? So to your question, I think that the lack of understanding and not being, and again I say with respect, not brave enough to embrace, adapt, and adopt technologies for the greater good. And there are aspects that you still need people, and we need to be blessed because we are humans and we have our reasoning, and we are instrumental for a security operations center. We are instrumental for critical decision making. Great. But that does not mean that technology, algorithms, machine learning cannot help. Quite on the contrary. So lack of communication or lack of understanding would be my short answer to your question. Back to you.
No, I agree with you when you say lack of understanding. So on that note, how can we as a collective, as an industry, as a society, how do we sort of get that understanding then? Because like these conversations people are still having, there seems to not be this communication or this, feedback loop into people to say, like, as you said, we don't have to fight robots, we actually work with them. So how do we sort of go about navigating that? Is it just going to take time for this conversation to become more ubiquitous so people aren't afraid, or what would be your advice on that?
Well, it will take time. So I always say that, and of course I work in a for-profit business. I always say, our executives, our customers, our shareholders, it will take time. It will take some quarters, in plural, So when you try to innovate, when I think that the name of the game is not only digital transformation or digital disruption, the name of the game, especially in this troubled pandemic times, the name of the game is going to be radical innovation. And if the name of the game is going to be radical innovation, you need to do different things differently. So not just different things, but in a different way. When the adverb comes in differently, I think it changes different, perspectives and dimensions. The speed of change that I was mentioning before, the agility and the depth that you're embracing that. So we will solve that equation, if you allow me to call it that way, by first investing, but also nurturing young professionals. I'm pretty sure that there will be a point in time in our conversation that we need to talk about education and training and certifications and nurturing the people in the university right now. The people that are starting to know about, coding, great, cloud, fantastic, cybersecurity, wow, brilliant. What about that radical innovation aspect? Being brave, being bold, of course, with all of the legal measures and all of the common sense. I mean, you cannot throw money through the window, but being brave and bold, because, to my eyes, and again, I've been in the industry more than 25 years, but technology looks like magic these days. There are very few things that technology cannot do, especially with data, especially when it comes to correlating data, working with data lakes, algorithms. I always say, going back to our machine learning topic, I always say that algorithms are always right, meaning that they do what they are designed to do 24/7, 365 days per year. So they don't have a bad day. They don't complain of the salary, or they don't have an argument, with their daughter or wife or boyfriend. No. Algorithms, they do that relentlessly. So the way to do that is going back to the university degrees and programs, and in the very same way that I'm honored of doing quantum computing sessions for ISACA and ISACA chapters around the planet, in the very same way that I'm teaching in 3 universities and in the Masters on Cybersecurity. I mean, I am one of the few teachers, I would say, in the world that talk in cybersecurity. You talk about quantum computing or machine learning, meaning, how it changes and the impact on protection and defense and assurance and authentication and identity management and all these sort of things, especially in these pandemic times that we are all working from afar. Some countries are in lockdown, some are opening, but still, for us, for instance, a cyber res, a micro-focus line of business, we cannot back to the office. We can't. It looks like in September, maybe in October, but I'm sitting here in Barcelona, Spain, which is again a pleasure to be with you today. But especially that my government, my community, my employer, my education university, they need to ensure that I am who I say I am. So in these special times where authentication is instrumental, where authorization is critical to know who has access to what, when, and how, and bring context into access. Not just the content, but context, where I am based, how am I connected, for how long, with which privileges. So my question to our audience now is, don't you think that machine learning and algorithms and artificial intelligence, don't you think that they can help? The answer is yes. But to your question, we need to go back to the university, look into people's eyes, look into young professionals' eyes, and look into CISOs' eyes and CTOs and etc. and saying, machine learning, artificial intelligence is here to help. So that's my, again, sorry for a long answer, but my short question is going back into teaching that and embracing that change that where machine learning can help into processes, procedures, technology, assurance, auditing, even cash management, P&L, metrics, indicators. Technology can certainly help, absolutely.
So, speaking of education and universities, now, one of the things, you'd be the perfect person to answer this, is do you believe that universities and colleges need to update their curriculums to incorporate AI and machine learning? Now, first of all, I know if you look at a traditional comp sci degree that a lot of people are coming out of university, but their skills have atrophied because things change, as you know. And so then my second problem is that universities and colleges, there's a bit of a process involved. It's not like just flicking the switch and then all of a sudden we've got a new curriculum. So what do you think is going to be the challenge? And would you say that people are trying to move towards incorporating AI into their curriculums, or?
I appreciate the question because I am seeing it firsthand, by the way. But unfortunately, they are being seen still as specializations, meaning the master in data science, the master in artificial intelligence, the master in... So it is not part of the, let's say, general or the core when people are sitting into computer science. The very same way that we teach Python or Java or C++. What happens with machine learning and algorithms, right? Or blockchain, or this very cool emerging, or not emerging anymore, but emerging technologies, we call them, right? So I'm seeing change, but as I answered before, it will take time because there's a lot of inertia, unfortunately, in some legacy universities. Unless you are super cool and super modern and very digital oriented. At the core of the programs that you were mentioning, in the syllabus, sometimes they put a couple of hours. Just because they have to, because it has to be mentioned. But I see the positiveness on, well, then you go and take a master after your degree. You take a master on again, data science or digital economy, or master in cybersecurity specifically, right? That completes and complements, your university degree. So I'm seeing change. That's my answer. I'm seeing change, but it's super slow. and still at the core of the programs, even at an early age. I am usually invited to go into regular schools and colleges, not even universities, but go to colleges in order to inspire, not only women in technology, but also young professionals. So because we need that in a world that is pervasively digital, that it's absolutely, we live in the crossroads, at the crossroads where it's a technology world, but we still need the art of servicing customers, of serving people, of serving citizens, of serving the communities we live, work, and play, right? So I'm seeing it. So and I'm smiling when I'm saying this. So I see positiveness in there, but still super slow. While I celebrate that there are masters with a specialization, it is a discipline, by the way, this machine learning thing, or data science, or working with massive data lakes and correlating information on millions or billions of records. I mean, it requires a practical approach, not just theoretical perspective, which is appreciated, but sort of a workshop, a hands-on sort of thing. I have been honored of sitting into some classes and literally doing some sort of, in a programmatic way, telling students that, hey, this is the data lake, and you have to guess, which sort of customers that, a sort of a real world example. So this is why specialization is appreciated. Although I am voting for bringing it a little more of a generic or a general, purpose, because it's super needed. The understanding at an early age about how to code, how to program, logical thinking. If I do that happens, and how you can write, even if it's a few lines of code, what happens if I do that? That sort of logical thinking, effect and cause, action, response, this sort of thing at an early age, in the very same way that we teach English or French or Spanish. I think that's super important.
So would you say, because the changes are slower in universities, as you've just mentioned, which I agree with, would you say that people are then having more of an adoption towards certificates and other training providers, because, like, as we've spoken about today on several occasions, about having that change and then also that velocity there, because they can get certified a lot quicker and in a short amount of time, and it's providing them with the skill set that they need to operate in today's day and age.
Well, absolutely, and again, I have to applaud. Of course, I'm representing ISACA. I'm considered as an ISACA ambassador, which of course I say with a lot of pride. But of course, the answer is a big yes, because when you go into university and they don't teach you on that, and suddenly you have different. Let me pause here for a second. Different, several angles in order. If you want to do auditing or auditing the cloud, okay, fantastic, no problem. But if you want to take if you're a risk practitioner, you have a certification for a risk practitioner. If you want to go into the governance of the enterprise IT, fantastic, be my guest. There's one on, designing programs of governance and managing outsourcing and these sort of things. But if you want to go into, some other routes, certifications certainly help. They complete and complement, your studies. And of course, I guess I am living proof of what I'm going to say. On top of that, when you put these acronyms of your certifications, CISM or CISA or CGEIT or or CDIPSI, or the different acronyms that give name to the content and certifications. They are respected out there. The beauty or the magic of that is that when you put that on your business card, well, these days it's on LinkedIn, I guess, not anymore, physical business cards, but when you see my signature on my email, when you look for me on Twitter or on LinkedIn, especially, and you see, wow, those acronyms, then if you're a customer, you recognize that, well, this meeting, if we are having a meeting, let's say, this is going to be good because this guy or this gal, she or he knows. When you are, in a conference or in an interview like this one, which I massively appreciate the kind invitation to speak with you, through you, to you today. You know that, well, this guy knows. He has been, he has decided to go into the journey that we were talking at the beginning, of our conversation. And then, those letters that he or she has on her or his signature, they mean something. They mean, of course, it took money on the table and a lot of hours and effort and the willingness and the drive to give service. Remember what I said at the beginning. I wanted to understand what I was selling at my early age, and then provide a good service, a good value, and a good conversation and good knowledge and good content, again, to my customers in my case, or my students when I'm teaching. So certifications, I absolutely celebrate them. I applaud them, of course. ISACA, as it is obvious, but the others as well. The landscape of certifications and the variety and the different flavors of certifications. If it's privacy, great. If it's assurance, fantastic. If it's risk, magnificent. So yes to your question. I think that they are. There's a market for that, and there's a need for that, especially for professionals that have been in a, let's say, in a specific department for, 10, 15, 20 years, and they want to do a career change, but in a lateral movement, meaning, okay, I would like to understand more about cloud. This new thing, cloud, or maybe those emerging technologies, blockchain or artificial intelligence. I have listened to an interview, with Ramses Gallego. What is about machine learning? He mentioned, right? So, but I have been a lawyer all of my life, and I know a lot, and I know about law. But I would like to understand the digital aspect of law, So yes to your question, and absolutely, I celebrate and applaud certifications, again, from ISACA and from the others. Absolutely, yes.
So speaking of certifications, I know that ISACA has recently brought out a new cert, which is the Certified in Emerging Technology, or also known as CET. Can you talk to me a little bit more about what that is?
Absolutely, and thanks for the question. And I'm smiling the moment that you mentioned it, because I love it. Let me put it this way: it is a very intelligent move, and very creative. I will tell you why in a second. But it's very much needed out there. Let me explain. As you say, the certification is called CET, Certified in Emerging Technologies, and as the name implies, is a certification of different, let me use the plural, technologies. Why am I saying that? Because it's the first that I know of, stackable certification. And I'm moving my hands, by the way, when I'm saying this, because, stackable means that you add different layers, not levels, layers of knowledge of those emerging technologies. What is considered an emerging technologies? And I know, and I understand this is debatable, right? But what is considered, let's call it emerging technologies? Cloud, some may say that it's not emerging anymore, etc. But still there are developments on cloud. So let's call it that it's new, it's fresh, or at least it's not the old way of doing things. So cloud, blockchain, of course, artificial intelligence or machine learning, if you want to call it like that. And last but not least, IoT, the Internet of Things, or the Internet of Everything, okay? Or if you wanna give it a cybersecurity aspect, I also in my session I always say that IoT also means, and I'm not playing with words here, I'm that serious when I'm saying this. IoT also means the Internet of Threats or the Internet of Trouble. Okay, so while the acronym works for the Internet of Things or the Internet of Everything, let's not forget the cybersecurity aspect of IoT. Okay, so that stackable certification allows you to do it on your own timing, when you have the right time. You can start on cloud and then AI or machine learning, or you go first with blockchain because it's kind of cool, with all the cryptocurrencies and understanding the power of integrity and anonymization that blockchain brings. So CET, that ISACA certification, it's stackable, it's on demand, you do it on your own path, and when you get the 4, you get that certification on emerging technologies. I love it. But if I have, give me another minute to explain, because there's another one that I also love from ISACA, which is also stackable as well. And I want to, when you were asking me about CET, I was thinking on my head that I need to mention it because I think it's super cool. Another stackable certification is called ITCA. Let me explain, which is Information Technology Certified Associate. It's exactly the same approach. You have 5 domains of stacks, you can take them as you wish, and it's information technology. So this is not emerging technologies, but the same approach of you wanna know about computing, regular computing fundamentals, information technology. Okay, be my guest. But there also you want to know about networks and infrastructure, basic routing and networks, how the world and data goes back and forth. That's another stack of ITCA, of that ITCA. But the same goes with cybersecurity, that's another stack, or data science, or even software development. So again, as a young professional, and I have a daughter which is in university, and I was explaining her the other day that that's great because that's how the world goes, software development. Even if you are not going to develop anything, maybe she is not for a computer science career. I think that knowing about networks and infrastructure, or data science, as we were talking before, or cybersecurity as fundamentals. Again, this is a basic certification. So I just wanted to mention that you asked me about CET, which I appreciate, but also that brilliant idea that ISACA came up with, that stackable, and again, I'm moving my hands when I'm saying this, so stackable certifications, do your own timing, your own path, choose your own journey, going back to the word that we were using before. I think that's very clever and super needed these days, especially when young professionals, they have their own timing and their own attention, in this epoch. So CET, there are others, from ISACA that I think that are very important. Auditing the cloud, so certificating cloud audit knowledge, not just security knowledge, but how to audit the cloud, how to audit the cloud service provider. In a nutshell, and again, apologies for a long answer, but I get so excited with your questions on how we can nurture, how we can develop the students and young professional in these troubled times. Well, the problem is not knowledge, and the problem is not technology. The problem is the willingness, the drive, and seeing it as I saw it, when you asked me the first question, some minutes ago, I saw it at an early age. I wanted to understand what I was selling, and then I went into my certification journey or path. I'm inviting everybody who's listening, again, and not only young professionals, you guys in law, you guys listening, that are assurance professionals, you have been in purchasing departments, even you are not related to IT, when you are purchasing goods for the company, I'm pretty sure that it has some digital angle into that, right? So I have seen purchasing managers, he taking some of those CET, certifications because they wanted to understand the digital universe that we are in. So yes, I absolutely, I think that's very intelligent from the ISACA part.
So just pressing on that a little bit more on the cert side of things, would you say that this cert will be an interim solution to upskilling current IT professionals? Because, a lot of what we've discussed today is how rapid the industry is moving and how people's skills are being atrophied. So taking up this certification is going to help sort of improve that skills gap.
Well, absolutely. So, and I want to be absolutely specific. As an entry point, as a, let's say, foundational knowledge, as fundamentals, which is part of is one word that ISACA uses, yes, okay, that will not substitute, regular, large 2-year, 3-year, 4-year university training, as you may imagine. But again, if you're a young professional or a veteran like me, if you want to do that lateral movement and then go to your next interview, go to your next potential job opportunity and saying, I know about networks and infrastructure, I understand something about blockchain. Well, I can have a conversation about machine learning, more than 15 seconds, because I have gone through that stackable certification, fundamentals knowledge. To your question, I think that my answer is yes. Again, then then you design your career, your path, and then you go into that university degree, maybe a master's. None of the certifications that I have just mentioned are like a regular master that take you like, I don't know, 15 months, 24 months to get, right? However, when you study for something about 4 months, 6 months, when you read ISACA material twice, 3 times, when you go and do a lot of tests, those mock exams that train you for when you're sitting for the real thing, well, that gives you that gives you an edge. That gives you an edgy content in order, again, to go into a regular conversation with friends or in a job interview and say, well, I know something about software development, and I know, the challenges of software development, the benefits of software development. Why? Because I took one of the stacks of the ITCA, the ITCA certification, or I know something about IoT that I was mentioning, right? More than 15 seconds, just saying that the connected car or the refrigerator. That's a typical 15 seconds conversation, right? But when you take one of these certifications, you can talk about benefits, challenges, solutions, applicability into different markets, healthcare, telco, retail. I think that's super cool, again, for a young professional and for a veteran professional. So yes to your question, and I think that they complete and complement, and that upskilling and cross-skilling, I would say. What we're talking here is not just upskilling, but also cross-skilling. And in the different interviews, and I have been working with my own human resources department and people department within CyberRes, with Micro Focus and other companies. I know that this is taking into account how many different skill you have, your skill set, different capabilities. I have studied X, but I have some knowledge on Y and Z. This sort of hybrid professional, that professional of the future of now that we were talking before, it's super needed and very, very, very relevant for the times that we are living. Yeah, absolutely.
So just to switch gears for a second, out of everything that we've been speaking about today, talking about certifications, universities being a bit slower and how they change their syllabus, fighting against robots, people afraid that Terminators are going to take over the world. But I think something that people genuinely are afraid of is, will they still have a job, and what does that sort of look like? And what I mean by that is, do you believe that we are going to have a surplus of IT professionals who will need to be redeployed into other roles because, AI has enhanced their jobs, so their job's no longer required? Because I think that this is something that is going to then make people think outside the box in terms of where they can move to next, like taking up a CET certification with ISACA, like going back and studying something else that isn't going to take 4 years. So I'm really curious to sort of get your thoughts on that, because a lot of the conversation that we have spoken about today is looking at the change, not being afraid of machine learning and artificial intelligence, and really sort of embracing how we move forward in that space. And I think that this is a question people are asking, but I'd really love to hear your thoughts on it.
Absolutely. So it is true, as I was saying before, that some jobs, or I would say some tasks of those jobs, are going to disappear. Actually, let me use the present continuous, are disappearing. Yes, part of the job functions or some tasks, yes to all of that. But in the very same way, others are appearing, like, again, auditing the cloud. Or if you being a cyber analyst, or that data science, or a computer operator, or a database operator or scientist. So the diversity of the digital world is huge, meaning when it's not privacy, it's storage. When it's not, IoT is high tech of high performance computing, meaning that this conversation or your question, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, probably, it was like the future, right? For me, your question now is the future right now. Yes, that some jobs are going to disappear or are disappearing. However, there are other opportunities opening in the world of privacy, of the world of data analysts, of data scientists, cloud architect. I love those names that we the industry have invented into that. So, I I would say that we shouldn't approach this with fear. Quite on the contrary, with the willingness of renovating ourselves, with the willingness of putting more acronyms into our signature, if you want to use that thing, and I think that's important. Understanding, again, software development and data science, because that opens doors for. Let me give you an example. There are automobile makers, meaning companies that do regular cars, the big names, the big brands. And I'm not talking about these super cool modern autonomous cars that we may think of. No, I mean the regular, let's say, German cars or whatever. They're hiring more people now for their networks, infrastructure, software development, coding, and cybersecurity departments than for the factory. So to your question, I think that's a real example. So not any more people, with all due respect, that they put the wheels and the brakes and and the doors. Well, robots do that very effectively and efficiently. Remember, 24/7. However, now that, let's say, that the automobile industry are basically, a computer with wheels. And again, I'm not talking about the Teslas of the world or the Neos of the world or the Volkswagens of the world. Yes, BMW, Mercedes, Volkswagen, they need more people coding and securing the infrastructure and making sure about the ethical approach of how they do computing. So jobs or job functions are gone or about to be gone? Yes. But how many doors are being opened as a consequence of that digitalization? Remember what I just said some minutes ago. The name of the game is radical innovation. And I'm inviting everyone who's listening today that being innovative or radically innovative also for themselves. Crafting your career and thinking out of the box, what's next for me? And I say with respect, because some people think that, no, I'm good where I am. Okay, I wanna stay. I want to go at a low pace. I have been in the same place for 23 years, and this is where I want to be. Okay, I respect that. However, remember velocity, variety, and volume of change. If you don't disrupt yourself, maybe someone comes and disrupt you. Your business, your organization, your association, your job, etc. So I think that deserves a conversation. That deserves a conversation with yourself, with oneself, and understanding, how many times we look at our mobile devices per day. How many times we check our tablets and information and social media. That's a shift in perception. Am I right? So as individuals, as professionals, as human beings, we need to embrace change, as I was saying before. And I'm inviting everyone to embrace change for themselves as well, crafting a career, becoming the best professional they can be, the best version of themselves. I was telling my students that when I'm doing sessions for ISACA chapters around the planet, these days virtual, as you may imagine, but still doing dozens of them, which is an honor and a blessing. I'm always saying, try to be the best version of yourself, not just for you, but also for your customers, for your family, for the society you live. And certainly knowledge, certification, education, training, that helps into that perspective a lot.
There's an app that actually you can download on your phone that tells you how many times you pick up your phone. Correct. I think I had it once and it was scary. So I got rid of that.
Absolutely.
I don't want to know how many times I pick up my phone. But yes, absolutely agree with a lot of your thoughts, especially when you spoke around opening new doors as a consequence. And I think it's going to take perspective to be able to see the value in that. But again, it's going to take time as we sort of traverse into this digital age. So
absolutely,
really do appreciate your thoughts on that, Ramses. So thanks very much for coming on the show. I do appreciate you spending your time because I know that you have got a lot on today. If people perhaps have a question for you that I didn't ask you, how can they go about getting in contact with you?
Well, actually, you can follow me. It's pretty easy. It's name, surname all together, Ramses Gallego. You can follow me, guys and gals, on Twitter, on LinkedIn. I'm not on Facebook, but you can follow me. It's pretty obvious. You will see me. And again, the International Chief Technology Officer for CyberRes, a micro-focus line of business. I'm an ISACA friend, ambassador, and former international vice president at the board of directors worldwide. I have been treated, by the way, amazingly well in Australia, in New Zealand. I have fond memories. So guys, I mean, you will find me, on social media. Of course, if you want my personal email, I can give it to you, which is pretty easy. Ramses.Gallego. So Ramses with an M. .gallego@me.com or iCloud, if you will, .com. So Ramses.Gallego@me.com, at iCloud.com, or social media, LinkedIn, they work fantastically. I always reply, and I'm so looking forward to, hearing your questions, comments, feedback, and it's a pleasure again.
Oh, thank you very much, Ramses. As I mentioned at the start of the podcast, I knew that you were going to have a lot of energy. So yeah, I've really appreciated that. I think that you've shared a lot of knowledge that people will appreciate. So thanks very much for taking the time.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to KB Cast, the cybersecurity podcast for executives. We always value your support and would love it if you could leave us a review or a comment on your platform of choice, iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Play, and that's always appreciated. Till next time.